Hi everyone, welcome back to our second week of Ask the Agents. We're very excited to continue this series. We had a great week last week with our Managing Director, Sharon, who's with us again today, answering all your questions about PR, comms, marketing, and everything in between, basically. So this week we're excited to kick off again with some more questions we received from our audience, all this time to do with kind of just the general understanding of PR and whether it's valuable in this current climate we're in. So thank you so much, Sharon, for joining us again this week to answer some more questions. I'm really excited to hear what you've got today.
Thanks, Sam.
Great. So we'll kick start on. We'll want to keep it nice and short and sweet so that it's easy to watch in a lunch break or on a coffee run. But our first question today comes from John. Now, John says, I'm interested in doing some PR for my brand, but I'm concerned that my investment won't be maximized at the moment. Should I wait until COVID-19 settles a bit more in order to achieve as much brand visibility as possible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think a lot of brands would be asking the same kind of question at the moment. And really the answer to that is that it actually is a good time to start investing. We're really seeing the tides changing. Certainly media is a lot more interested in commercial messaging. And so it's definitely time to start at the very least doing some really solid planning around how you're going to get back into market and what those messages should be and what the best way to launch your product or to create a bit of buzz around it should be, and how can you do that? What are the tactics that you could be using that really ladder back to your overall strategy? So in short, yes, it's a great time to start planning and executing. We've got quite a few brands on board at the moment that are executing their plans and getting excellent cut through. So it really just depends on how you plan. You still need to be sensitive and you still need to be really smart in how you connect with your audience and know where they're sitting and what they're thinking about. And it just leads back to being really strategic and thoughtful about how you can connect with your audience again.
Yeah, great. And I think that ties in really nicely with our second question, which came in from Laura. And I guess it's kind of the other end of the spectrum in terms of if you are looking at investing back into PR marketing, is it kind of, is it seen as opportunistic? So she says, my business is doing well at the moment. I want to start investing back into PR marketing, but I'm worried about looking opportunistic. What should I do?
Yeah, that's a good one because I think you've got to look at what opportunistic actually means, and that is when you're trying to gain off the back of a crisis or a situation that isn't so pleasant. That's when it gets a bit icky and it doesn't look so great for your brand. So again, whatever you do at the moment still needs to be quite sensitive and needs to be really well thought out. But unless you're actually trying to capitalize off of a disaster, it's not opportunistic at all. At the end of the day, it's about helping your audience with something that you think could be really useful to them or something that they need to be doing, and why, what is the why as to why they should engage with your purchase from you, and if the answer is that is it due to the COVID virus or anything to do with that, that's when it's opportunistic. Otherwise, if it's part of their everyday life, it's really helpful to them, it's something that they partake in, it could be a hobby, etc., there's nothing about that that's opportunistic. So just be really smart about the messaging.
Yeah, I think it does really come down to that. Hey, it's all about being sensitive and making sure that everyone still needs your product and your service as well. Exactly. It's not going to come off as being, insensitive to what people are actually facing. So
100%.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting and definitely worthwhile for businesses to consider what they're putting out. But yeah, so we kind of go into our last question, which is changing veins a little bit. But this one comes in from Sevi, and she's kind of asking in this time, where everything's moving a bit more digital, what's the best approach with their spend? So she says, with everything moving to more of a digital format, are influencers still worth the investment? Should I be partnering with them to help promote my brand, or is my money best spent in traditional advertising?
Oh, that's good. Well, I think that at the end of the day, they're all different channels. So, to me, a good marketing plan is one that has a really nice mix of channels. So I wouldn't be pitting one against the other. It just comes down to what your product is and where is your audience sitting. To me, the use of influencer marketing, particularly in consumer products, it's yes, yes, and yes. I think we've been using it influencer marketing for quite a long time now, to connect audiences with products, and I think they've been even more relevant during the COVID period, because media has not really been as easy to engage as normal. And so influencers, again, as long as it's done well and tastefully and is related to everyday life and where it's at, and it's being sensitive, I think influencers are a great channel to be able to for them to showcase your product, to review it, to have an everyday engagement with it, and show their own followers what they think of your brand. So I think influencer marketing is a really strong strategy at the moment, again dependent on the type of product that you have, but I do feel that it should be part of the mix at the moment.
Yeah, and does demographic kind of play into that as well? Because I know personally as an Instagram user and following influencers, I personally might get more value out of watching an influencer do a product as opposed to someone in a different demographic. So is that something that people should consider?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are a couple more things there. I mean, it's about knowing who your end consumer is. Who are you trying to touch? What sort of age group are they in? Is Instagram the right place? Is that where they're living? TikTok might be the right thing for a younger audience, for example. Or, if you've got, females who are slightly older, then maybe Facebook is the way to go. So it's just really knowing where your audience lives and whether it's the right channel for that. But equally, it's also how you communicate with influencers and what you set up in terms of briefing documents for them, so they get the right messaging and the right hashtags and the right tags back to the distributors of your product, or is it back to your website? How can you connect between your influencer program and then demonstrate that ROI through sales? So you've got to think that through really, really well.
Yeah, no, there's really, really good points there, definitely. But yeah, that's really great. We're going to keep it nice and short, as I mentioned. But thank you, Sharon, for joining us again this week for Ask the Agent.
Pleasure.
Again, if you have any questions that you would like to send in, we'd love to answer them next week. So feel free to comment on this video post and we can sort that out for you and be in touch. But thank you, Sharon, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing everyone again next week for part 3. All right.
Thanks, Emily.